This is Optimal Finance Daily, episode 398. You've blown your budget. Here's what to do next by Kristin Wong of thewildwong.com. And I'm Dan, your host, and this is where I read to you from some of the best blogs on personal finance. And if you've got some topic requests for us, please do come and share those at oldpodcast.com, and we'll see what we can do. Also, don't forget that we give away spreadsheet tools, a video tutorial, and we also do book raffles for everybody who's on our weekly newsletter mailing list. To join that, you can also come by oldpodcast.com. But for now, let's hear from Kristin as we optimize your life. You've blown your budget. Here's what to do next by Kristin Wong of thewildwong.com. You finally learned how to budget. It's Friday, payday, and you've budgeted $100 to last the whole weekend. That should be plenty for a couple of nice meals, a trip to the museum, and maybe even a cocktail or two. Then you get a text from an old friend. Hey, I'm in town, let's go out. You do go out. You see a movie. After, you're hungry and there's this fancy burger joint that your friend would just love, so you go. It's been a while and you want to catch up, so when she asks to go get drinks, feeling spontaneous and free, you say, yes, let's absolutely go get drinks. It'll be a long night, you can tell already, so you grab a Lyft and you have an amazing time, and on Saturday morning, reality sets in. Shit, I spent my entire budget for the weekend in one night. We've all been there. Maybe it's not even a fun night out, maybe it's an emergency that pops up, in which case you need an emergency fund stat. Whatever the scenario, I've been there too, and there are 3 specific tactics that have helped me recalibrate after blowing my budget. Make a list of potential expenses. When you know you have exactly $0 to last you until a certain date, it's so easy to say screw it and dip into your savings, or worse, put your expenses on a credit card. You've blown your budget anyway, so what's the point? You'll do better next time. But this moment is really a fork in the road. You can go back to doing the same old stuff, and yes, eventually you will probably learn your lesson. Or you could learn your lesson now and put an end to the cycle of overspending and regret. To encourage an end to the cycle, I've found it helps to make a list of your anticipated spending for the weekend. List every single thing you were planning to do or buy. Lunch on Saturday, brunch Sunday morning, the museum trip, and so on. Making a list accomplishes a couple of things. 1, it makes it easier to search for cheaper alternatives. You know you have to eat lunch on Saturday, but while you were planning on getting sushi, you now have to come up with a more cost-effective alternative. Leftovers or groceries, perhaps. 2, it tells you exactly what you need to avoid. When you have an actual list, you won't be blindsided and forget that you're supposed to avoid spending so you can get back on budget. At this point, there's still time to save your budget, but that's a lot easier to do when you know what you're likely to spend money on for the next few days. Come up with an emergency budget. It's time to go on a spending freeze. Is this obvious? Yes. Is it easier said than done? Yep. But it's also absolutely necessary if you want to stick to the plan. It might be hard to not spend a single cent for the rest of the weekend, but the idea here is to do the best you can and spend as little as possible. This is where the list comes in handy again. If you know you have to spend money at some point, let's say you need to eat and your fridge is 100% empty, come up with a backup plan, an emergency budget if you will. Instead of going out to dinner, for example, you'll go grocery shopping. Then actually put a number on how much you'll spend on groceries. Sure, it sort of defeats the purpose because you've already blown your budget. You now have $25 to spend on groceries, but that's still $25 more than you budgeted for the weekend. However, giving yourself a limit at least ensures you don't revert back to the screw it mentality and end up blowing your budget by $100 or more. You've broken the rules, and yes, that's bad, but neglecting to set new ones is almost like giving yourself permission to give up altogether. Remember your why. None of this has much of a chance of working if you don't remember why you created a budget in the first place. When you're learning how to budget, one of the first steps should be establishing a purpose for your budget. I'm an adult and adults are supposed to have budgets is quite possibly the worst purpose ever. It is meaningless to you, and it makes money the boss rather than the tool that's supposed to support you. Your goal might be as simple as pay rent so I can keep my apartment, or make sure my family has food on the table. Whatever it is, keep it front of mind at this time so you'll remember that you're doing this for yourself. Finally, it can't hurt to have an accountability partner, that person who is always there to offer support and feedback, that friend who desperately wants you to succeed. When you're tempted to skip lunch at home and grab all-you-can-eat sashimi, you text her and she says, "I'll be right over, we'll make sandwiches." You just listened to the post titled, You've Blown Your Budget. Here's What to Do Next by Kristin Wong of thewildwong.com. And one last time, I want to remind you that you can be a part of raffles where you can win books from us, as well as get free spreadsheet tools, including a video tutorial and a lot more, just by being part of our weekly newsletter. To sign up for that, just come by oldpodcast.com. That's oldpodcast.com. And that's going to do it for today. I will see you in the Thursday show tomorrow, where your optimal life awaits.
Hello, Life Optimizer. This is Justin Malik, creator and producer of this podcast, but also Optimal Living Daily, the show where I read to you from even more blogs covering finance, productivity, minimalism, personal development, and more from incredible bloggers like Derek Sivers, Zen Habits, Mark and Angel, The Minimalists, and all the ones you hear on this show too. So if you enjoyed today's episode and like taking amazing blogs on the go, come on over to Optimal Living Daily and subscribe to that one too. And together, we'll start optimizing your life.
You've been listening to Optimal Finance Daily. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on each new episode and head to oldpodcast.com. That's OLDpodcast.com for a free gift, as well as more actionable tips and resources to help you maximize your potential. Thanks for joining us, and remember, your optimal life awaits.